Hello everyone and welcome to DC Central, and in today's video we're going to be going over, breaking down and reviewing the first episode, the pilot of the new DC Universe TV series known as Doom Patrol. So let's discuss. So yes, we have already arrived at the second series for the DC Universe streaming service, or Netflix over here in the UK. We don't have DC Universe, but I think this is a long time coming, and out of all the DC Universe sort of, slate of shows that they announced, this was always the one I was most excited about. I mean, I really enjoyed Titans. You can go back, you can see my review for Titans. I reviewed the whole season. I really enjoyed Titans. I thought that was a really fun show. I definitely had some issues with it, with its characters and with its tone, but for the most part, I really enjoyed that show. So, it was safe to say that I was really excited about Doom Patrol, just in terms of the characters they were going to be using, the tone that they seem to be going for, pretty much the opposite of Titans, really, and just all the different elements coming together. And also, I have to say, my favorite episode of Titans was episode 4, which was the Doom Patrol episode. So I was really excited about Doom Patrol, and I've now seen the pilot. 2 days later, I've seen the pilot, I've caught up on it, and I was so impressed. Like, just speaking of first impressions, this is one hell of a first impression. This was a solid pilot, such a good pilot. It's able to go through and really establish and give background to all of the major characters for the most part. Crazy Jane is a little bit of a underserved character in this episode, but I'll get to her later on. But for the most part, it does a really good job of just allowing the audience to get to know all the different characters, all the different members of the Doom Patrol, and just letting you understand where they come from, what their backstory is, what their powers are, and you really get to see all these different elements come together really, really well. And I just think as a pilot, it's so solid at setting up the story, setting up the villains, setting up the characters. It reminds me very much of the pilot for Arrow. Arrow Season 1, Episode 1. If you see that pilot, it is a brilliant pilot that really just gives you a really good idea of the show and what it's going to be like, and I feel like Doom Patrol is exactly the same. So let's go through the characters then. Let's start off with Robot Man, aka Cliff Steele, played by the wonderful Brendan Fraser. Robot Man is kind of the primary protagonist of this episode. I don't know how this is going to go on throughout the season, but this is kind of the main character it focuses on for the most part. I have to say, I really like this character. Like, he's a bit of a dick, but then when you see what happens to him, and then how he becomes Robot Man, you do feel quite sad for him, and his backstory is quite tragic, especially in terms of like secrecy and things like that. There's a lot of different issues going on with Robot Man, and I thought it was actually a lot deeper than I thought it was going to go. This show and this episode goes a lot deeper with the characters than I thought it was going to. I thought the show was going to be a lot more, I guess, comedic centric, and I feel like it is going to go a lot more down that route as the season goes on. But I feel like, in terms of setting up these backstories, it's not afraid to go into some deep and dark and sad places for these characters, and Robot Man is a perfect example of that. His character is really sad and has got a really, like I say, tragic backstory. I really like the idea of him being this, really cocky race car driver who is involved in an accident. They kind of play off the accident in a different way, and then you see how it actually turned out, and you get to see the tragic unfoldings of that, and the secrecy that he's been kept while he's been kept as part of the Doom Patrol for all these years. I really enjoyed Brendan Fraser's performance as well. I think he's a great actor. You get to see him in the flashbacks in the flesh, and then when he's Robot Man, he's doing the voiceover. I just think he does a great job, and the look of him, the movement, it's just, it really works for this character and for the show and for the tone they've set. Then we have Negative Man, aka Larry, who is played by Matt Bomer, who you'll know from shows such as Suits, or White Collar, sorry, not Suits. Now, Negative Man is one I'm a little bit more confused on. I'm not 100% sure what his powers are yet, and this is probably just down to me. I don't really know the character, so I don't know what his powers are in the comics, but in terms of the show, I guess it's some kind of possession in a way. And given the fact that it's Negative Man, I'm thinking, is this some kind of like negative energy, for the negative area? I don't know. He goes into space and then he gets kind of infected with this energy, and it allows him to survive the plane crash he was in. But I did like this character as well, and the fact that he's kind of the most restrained out of all of them, in the sense that, all the others, they have the opportunity to go out into the world in this episode and go out into the local town, and a lot of them are very open to this. A lot of them are a bit more excited to do that, whereas Negative Man is very, very frightened of that. He's very, he's very much content to stay at the mansion and just, keep himself to himself. Don't let anybody else, don't let the world see him for who he really is. And I like that. I like that element. I like the fact that he is the restrained one, which I didn't really expect, to be honest. And the design of his character, the look, he looks very much like a mummy. There's even a good joke about that in the episode. There's some really good lines in this episode, which I'll get to. But there's just some really awesome elements going in with Negative Man. Like I say, I just kind of want to know what his powers are per se, and what actually happened to him, because like I say, I'm not 100% sure. If you know, make sure you let me know in the comments. In the comments, if you can explain sort of what his powers are and how he's able to survive, because like I say, it's not made entirely clear to me, but I still really like his character, and I'm excited to see where they're going to go with him. We then have Rita, aka Elastigirl. I really like this character as well. She was one I was a bit iffy with in Titans. Like, she was kind of the one out of the ones we'd seen where I was like, you know, we'll see how it goes. But I really like her in this episode. She's really good here. I really love her backstory in that she was this 50s actress who, you know, was basically... There was an accident on set which caused her to get the powers she has, and her powers are really freaky. They're really weird in the sense that she could just turn into this massive sluggish blob that just kind of, you know, floats around. I thought that was really interesting, and the design of it's really fun. It's just, I like what they do with her at the end of the episode as well, and the fact that she kind of just turns into it and she doesn't want to, and it just, you know, she's again afraid of kind of scaring people with her powers, because again, it is quite freaky looking, especially when she first starts to transition into it. It's quite scary to look at. And I really enjoyed that. I think April Balby did a great job in the role. Just her, you know, her accent. She is from the 50s, so she has this very, you know, posh, very pristine kind of accent. And even Crazy Jane gets a good line with that as well, which I really found funny. So there's some good stuff with Elastigirl. Like I say, I think she's really interesting. I'm excited to see what they do with her going forward and how she's going to play off with some of the other members. And then we have Crazy Jane. Like I say, she's kind of the most underserved of the four, because she doesn't get a backstory. She kind of... You get the three backstories of the three other characters, like I say, with Negative Man, Elastigirl, and Robot Man. And then Crazy Jane just kind of shows up, and it's established that, you know, she kind of just comes and goes when she pleases. So Crazy Jane just kind of shows up, and you get to see a couple of different personalities that she has. She has all these different personalities. Each one comes with a different power. We get a little hint to one of those powers as well, which basically turns her into what I could sort of see was like Firestorm from, you know, from The Flash and Legends. I was kind of like, that's kind of what it looked like to me. But, you know, Crazy Jane, I have to say, I can't remember the actress name. I almost said Denai Guerrero, but that's not Denai Guerrero. But, you know, the actress who plays her, I think she's very likable, does a really good job, especially because this character could be very unlikable, especially because there's a particular personality known as Hammerhead who is literally described as an asshole. And I feel like, you know, there is a potential for that character to be very unlikable and also quite annoying. But I feel the actress does a really good job of grounding her and making her likable, but also going off the rails when she needs to. Like, she has a lot of range, which I really enjoy. And, you know, as the season goes on, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more different personalities. Basically, if you like James McAvoy in Split and Glass playing Kevin Wendell Crumb, you know, if you like that kind of performance where you get all these different personalities coming out at once, you're going to like the character of Crazy Jane. That's what she's like, except the only difference between Crazy Jane and Kevin Wendell Crumb is that Crazy Jane has a different power for each of her different personalities, and I'm sure we're going to see plenty of those as the season goes on. But I really like her. Like I say, I want to see more of her backstory. Maybe we'll get that next episode, because we're also going to get introduced to Cyborg next episode, I believe, because Cyborg is not in this episode at all. I thought maybe there was going to be like a little tease at the end for him, but there isn't. I believe Cyborg does come in episode 2, so maybe with episode 2 we'll get the backstory for Cyborg, and we'll get the backstory for Crazy Jane, and then we'll have them all well established for the episodes going forward for the season. And then we have the Chief, played by Timothy Dalton. Now, this is a recast. This is not the same actor who played him in Titans. And also, I believe there was recastings for Robot Man and Negative Man. Like, these are not the same actors who played them in Titans, I believe. But yeah, this was a different acting choice. But obviously, Timothy Dalton is an acting legend. You can't say a bad word about the guy. He's phenomenal in this episode. Really good. Really good at showing content. Really good at showing anger. Really good at showing love and heart for these people who he's, you know, taken in over the years and basically turned their lives around when they were basically screwed. And I really liked his character. He seems really interesting. He seems to have a lot of different interesting things going on in his backstory, especially when it comes to the villain played by Alan Tudyk, who is also great in this episode. It seems like maybe Alan Tudyk is someone who he potentially failed or something like that, and he's going to be coming after him. So, you know, the Chief definitely has a lot of baggage, it looks like, and I'm excited to dive into that. What struck me immediately about this show was the cinematography. This is a really well shot show. Just from the opening scene alone, I thought, damn, that looks really good. And it does. I think the show looks really good overall. A lot better than Titans did. And Titans looked good, but I think Doom Patrol has this certain look in the way it's shot that makes it stand out above Titans and also above other DC TV shows such as the Arrowverse. It looks a really good looking show. I just love how weird this is as well. Like, this is exactly what I wanted to be, what I wanted this show to be. I just wanted it to be weird, and it is. It's completely strange, it's completely bonkers, and I love that. I think that this show, you know, this is not conventional, and this isn't for kids. This is a very, you know, hard R comic book show, and I really like that, because just the tone of it is so, it's like, because like I say, when you get the backstory stuff, it's quite sad, and it's quite empathetic, but then when you move into the modern day stuff, just the writing, the humor, it's so off the wall, and I think it's really funny. It works really well. The way the characters interact with each other, like I said, the way Crazy Jane interacts with Rita, and the way that her and Robot Man play off of each other is really good. Like, Crazy Jane gets a lot of really funny moments. Robot Man gets a couple of really good lines. I think that there's some really awesome moments that come from the humor and the writing, and like I say, I found it really funny, and the writing combined with the tone makes this a really weird show, but weird in a very good way. This is very much intentionally weird, and I'm completely eating it up. Overall, this was a hell of a first impression for Doom Patrol. Like I say, I am completely on board with this. I'm completely sold on this show based on this one episode. Like I say, solid pilot. If you like the pilot for Arrow in season 1, where, you know, if you watch that pilot, you are completely sold on the show, you are completely, you know, invested in the show and the story and the characters. Doom Patrol's the same thing. You get so invested in the characters, you really get into the tone of it, and you really just want to see where it's going to go. And like I say, I'm kind of sad that these shows come out week for week, because I just want to binge this show, and I can't, and it's really annoying, because like I say, there's so much to chew on in this. But I'm definitely going to be continuing to watch this show. I'm definitely going to continue to review this every single week on the channel, so make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload, and you don't miss any more Doom Patrol reviews from me. So thank you guys for tuning into DC Central. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload, like I say, and don't miss any more Doom Patrol reviews or any more Arrowverse reviews and Arrowverse content from this channel. And I hope to see you guys again next time.